Oh, okay.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I call the meeting to order. Good morning, by the way, everyone. I call the meeting to order at 9 o'clock in the morning. If you can all please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, can you please take the roll call?
Mayor Lopez,
Present?
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Present.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes, present.
Councilmember Menke,
Present.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Menke, seconded by Councilmember Davis to approve the agenda. Mayor Lopez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes.
Councilmember Menke,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now we will take public comment from members of the audience. At this time, the public is encouraged to address the City Council on any matter that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. The public will also be given a chance to comment on matters which are on the posted agenda during City Council deliberation on those specific matters. Please state your name and business affiliation, if any, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good morning, Council. This is Marisa Olgain with the Vernon Chamber of Commerce. Good morning to you. I wanted to, felt the need, the Chamber must acknowledge the recent article in the Southern California News Group that ran a week ago regarding a DA investigation and raid on developer Bill Barquette, former indicted Senator Frank Hill, Tony Bauza, a few of the same consultants that were approaching the city to negotiate a large deal on the Tehachapi land. And so I felt it was important to address and to acknowledge this article. And really, the Chamber must express its concern and frankly, concern over the leadership, the lack of confidence that we have right now with council's deliberate intent to push forward a deal and with shrugging the public vetting process and the competitive bidding process. That's the main concern, is that there was a long drawn out process to push forward a deal without concern and interest for a methodical public vetting process. And so we just want to watch this investigation unfold closely and just let it be a reminder to all of us that it is critical that we must follow the reforms, the spirit of our good governance policies that we have in place so that we can make sure that we make the right decisions moving forward. So I just needed to express that concern by the Chamber and the near miss, you know, of the millions of dollars that could be at stake and that our taxpayers would have to pay. And so we remain vigilant in ensuring and be part of the process to ensure that we have really good governance from our council that we expect from each of you. So I just wanted to make those comments to acknowledge that article that came out and that we will continue to watch this investigation and case closely as we've had, you know, conversations with the district attorney at times over the years. So we just want to make sure that we're avoiding all of that kind of a thing in our city. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comments?
Yes, Mayor, what we do.
Hi, I'm Susie Ibarra, resident. I want to thank the council and the city and administrator for getting the school or the kids in the school a PC. The first week was so upsetting. the PC they got didn't work, the sound didn't work, it would be knocked off. It was a terrible experience. But thankful for you all for bringing us the PC. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comments?
Mayor, I did receive a comment via email that I'd like to read into the record.
Okay.
Good morning. I'd like to know where the city council members in the 40th Congressional District stand in terms of Black Lives Matter. I understand that the council may have previously made comments acknowledging racial injustice and that some may have made references to Black Lives Matter in previous meetings. I'd like to ask each member of this council today, including the city manager, whether or not you can each publicly state whether you support the Black Lives Matter movement or not. I understand you do not have to answer non-agenda items, but I also know that the Brown Act doesn't prohibit you from expressing an opinion of solidarity. I'd like to also ask you all to indicate what you have read, preferably a book that would indicate to your residents that you know what Black Lives Matter is about. Thank you, Jamie Lopez.
Thank you. We will now go on to the public hearing.
Item number 1 is amendment to Municipal Code Chapter 26 zoning map, and Public Works Director Wall will present the item.
I'm sorry, I have to recuse myself due to the fact that I do have a personal interest in it. I've been conferring with the city attorney on this item, and I'll be recusing myself and leaving the building.
We're gonna need more monitors.
Because I can't see. That's fine. No, I already seen. I've seen it now. I could, yeah.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you is Ordinance 1270, which seeks to bring the housing overlay zone into alignment with the goals of the general plan and with existing privately owned housing in the city of Vernon. It's not working. So in this presentation, I'm going to provide a background about why I'm here for the third time with this request. I'm going to discuss the zoning map and the proposed alignment, the general plan and the zoning ordinance. I'll talk about housing preservation, and then in closing, I'll try to tie this all together. The goal of Ordinance 1270 is to align the housing overlay zone with existing privately owned housing on East Vernon Avenue in accordance with the zoning ordinance and in support of the general plan. Next slide, please. So background, how did we get here? So this item was first presented to the City Council at the July 7th, 2020 meeting. And it was continued to the July 21st meeting. The reason for the continuation was that there was a question from the council about why the previous director had not included the properties that are the subject of this into the housing overlay zone in 2012 when the housing overlay zone was created. So I discussed with Kevin Wilson why that was done and presented that to the City Council at July 21st meeting. The question was called at that meeting. It did not pass on a 2-2 vote, and there was stated concerns about a conflict with the general plan. Next slide. So the zoning map and the proposed alignment. The gray arrow points to the only property that is currently within the housing overlay zone, and that's the Vernon Village Park Apartments. The yellow arrow points to the only other privately owned housing that currently exists within the city of Vernon. And that's the properties that this item would bring into the housing overlay zone. The housing overlay district is applicable only to sites that have been specifically identified by the city and determined to be the best locations for housing given surrounding uses, proximity to services and amenities, and distance from large-scale industrial operations. The houses that are pointed to with the yellow arrow are currently adjacent to an elementary school. They are by a church, and there is a uniform store next to them as well. And they are across the street from 10 city-owned homes. So as far as best location goes, this is an ideal location for housing to be included within the housing overlay zone. Next slide. So the general plan. General plan is to provide both direction and flexibility. The plan is broadly focused. It includes goals, policies, and maps to guide decisions. It establishes a framework for those decisions and helps to provide guidance and direction. So the general plan provides guidance to the city council in enacting ordinances relating to zoning, land use, public improvements, and development programs, and that's from the general plan's own introduction. Ordinance 1270 would modify the zoning ordinance in accordance with the general plan. Next slide, please. So what is the zoning ordinance? The zoning ordinance is land use law. And according to the general plan, the zoning ordinance is the governing land use law for the city. Further, the general plan states that whereas the land use element sets forth the broad policies, the zoning ordinance provides for deviations through amendments to the zoning ordinance. Next slide. The general plan housing element has a stated goal for the city to preserve houses, existing houses. And this is done in several places. I've just put a few excerpts into this presentation. On page 46, it states that the city wants to conserve and preserve all 31 housing units in the city. At the time, there were 31 housing units in the city, 5 of which were privately owned. Page 47 says the major focus of housing policy in Vernon is to preserve the existing housing stock in the city. On page 49, it says that the city's primary housing goal is to preserve the existing housing units. On page 50, it says that we are to provide for the retention of existing residential units in the city. And then explicitly on page 51, policy H-1.3 says that we are to mitigate any residential displacement impacts occurring as a result of residential demolition. And policy H-2.1 says that we are to provide for the retention of existing residential units in the city. So next slide, please. So how are we doing in meeting the goals of H-2, which is to maintain existing dwelling units? The addresses that are shown on this slide are the 5 existing privately owned housing units, or the 5 units that were in existence at the time the general plan was adopted. You'll notice that the 2 units on Leonis are crossed out, and that's because they are scheduled to be demolished in 2020. Does aligning the housing overlay zone with the existing privately owned housing on Vernon Avenue support goal H2, the preservation of housing in Vernon, and if so, how? Next slide. So by aligning the housing overlay zone, we can preserve housing in a number of ways. Most importantly, through financing. Buyers of residential property borrow to make residential property purchases. Banks do not lend on residential properties that are outside of residential zones. So if a person's unable to get a loan to purchase a home, there's no home to be purchased. So Ordinance 1270 will align the housing overlay zone, and it allows for residential loans, which will allow for residential buyers. Additionally, it allows for residential loans so that existing owners can make repairs and improvements to their property. It allows for continued residential use, and it would place all privately owned housing in Vernon into the housing overlay zone. Next slide. So in closing, the general plan's housing element speaks strongly to the preservation of housing in the city of Vernon and is in line with the good governance electorate level reforms of 2011. Those electorate level reforms were to double the size of the city's electorate, and that can only be accomplished through the preservation of housing. Ordinance 1270 aligns the housing overlay zone with existing privately owned housing on Vernon Avenue in accordance with the zoning ordinance and in support of the general plan's housing element, Goal H-1 and Goal H-2. This concludes my report.
Do any members of the city council have questions of staff at this time?
No.
Hearing that there are none, I will now open the public hearing. If any member of the public would like to speak on this matter, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please state your name and business affiliation, if any. Do we have any public comment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Susie Ibarra. My response is to Council Members Minke, supported by Gonzalez, for the July 7th and 21st public hearing. I did attend the zoning meeting January 2015 and asked former Director Wilson why the properties were under industrial and I wanted it changed. He verbally responded that I wouldn't be impacted, but he was wrong. As I read the staff report on April 7th, 2015, my comments were not included. The staff report had changes to the elements and the overlays, but there was no reference that the existing housing will be moved to legal nonconforming. Councilmember Mickey made the assumption that our properties were always legal nonconforming. This is so wrong. Based on the Supplemental Environment Impact Report, Volume 1, legal nonconforming was used for truck and freight terminal only, never to cover the existing housing stock of Vernon. Changing the 31 existing housing stock of Vernon to non-conforming was never communicated verbally, in writing, or included in the changes to the general plan or zoning. Proof of residential use was provided to Director Wall of Housing Description, which included a 2009 appraisal, a title document, and a very clear certificate of occupancy, meaning no conditional uses. Councilmember Mickey questioned why I didn't complete an application. No large renovations are being made to the property. No changes are being made to the use of the property. Impacts for not improving the change in use will undermine our ability to maintain and update the property. But more importantly, that you just made a benefit for me. By having the properties listed as industry, you just doubled or even tripled the value of our property. Thank you. The general plan has a policy for discrimination. I find this process highly suspect after all these years as a resident in Vernon. Within the policy, it states the city will take proactive approach in enforcing anti-discrimination laws. Councilmember Minke, supported by Gonzalez, continue to find words or one-off phrases to stop the process, insinuating that something other than residents are on that property. Whatever the final vote is in today's public hearing, I would like to thank both Mayor Lopez and Councilmember Davis for their leadership, common sense, and for supporting the general plan of the city and the zoning ordinance in their commitment in maintaining the existing long-established housing stock. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comments?
Hi, Marisa Olguin again for the couple of comments. The chamber has withheld its comments during this process. We've mostly observed the public hearing mainly because it appeared to be a very obvious and simple fix. And so here we are at our third hearing, and so I felt compelled to make a few comments. And I truly studied the general plan and the city code. And the general plan clearly indicates the city's intent to preserve existing housing. Today's presentation appears that it identifies the areas where the general plan does intend to preserve existing housing. And what this would do, it would appropriately align the only privately held residents to a housing zone. And my question was, why wouldn't we also include the existing housing, meaning the city-owned housing? And from the answer that I received was that the city of Vernon does not necessarily have need to align or make that designation with its city-owned housing stock to a residential zone. And so the only one that is left is the privately held residence. So in our opinion, it makes sense to make this fix right now. It's clear a no vote means that you don't support retaining the existing housing. A yes vote appears that it supports correctly or appropriately aligning the privately held residence to a housing overlay and where it should be appropriately defined. So the chamber does support, believes it should be fixed. It also understands that this is a motto we've heard by the council, Menke, of a motto that you use: exclusively industrial, inclusively residential. And that is a great theme. And we want to make sure that we provide and retain that inclusively residential definition here within our city. And we want to make sure that we maintain an inclusively residential community. And if this is the only privately held residence that we have in our city, it just makes sense that it should be appropriately defined and designated as part of the housing overlay. So the chamber recommends that it should be fixed. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comments from the audience? Seeing that there are none, I now close the public comment portion of the public hearing. Does the city council have any questions of staff at this time? Seeing as all questions have been addressed, I hereby close the public hearing and open council deliberations. Once deliberations are complete, I will entertain a motion. Is there a motion?
Mayor, it appears as if there's no action to be taken, if there's no motion.
So do we move forward or?
There was previously a motion to introduce the ordinance, which failed because it was a 2-2 vote.
I support the general plan of the city for zoning ordinance and committed maintenance of existing long-established housing tax. So I voted.
So are you making a motion to introduce ordinance number 1270? Are you making a motion to introduce ordinance number 1270?
Yeah, the general plan for the city.
Ordinance number 1270 would amend the zoning map to include the properties in question. Mayor, if there's no second, it appears that that motion dies due to lack of a second.
Okay. Am I able to make a second?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll second it.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Davis, seconded by Mayor Lopez to introduce ordinance number 1270, amending the zoning map in chapter 26 of the municipal code to include the properties located at 2328 and at 2332, 2334 East Vernon Avenue in the housing overlay zone, and direct staff to schedule second reading and adoption for the September 15th, 2020 city council meeting. I'll call the roll. Mayor Lopez,
Yes?
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Menke,
No.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
No.
Motion fails 2-2.
Okay, we will now go on to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion. Items may be removed from the consent calendar by any member. Oh wait, should we have Melissa come back?
She's walking through the door. Thank you.
Sorry, Melissa.
Mayor,
It's fine,
before-
I'm used to it.
Sorry.
Mayor, before you ask for a motion on the consent calendar, I did want to indicate that a modified attachment to the service agreement with MRC, which is agenda item number 11, has been provided to the city council.
Okay. So do we have to pull that one separately or just that there was a change, to note that there was a change?
Just noting that there was a question on the attachment and it's been corrected. So the current exhibit is provided to the city council.
Okay, so we can move forward just as is. Okay.
Yes.
So we will now go to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion. Items may be removed from the consent calendar by any member of the council. Those items removed will be considered immediately after the consent calendar. Does council wish to pull any items from the consent calendar? Are there any public comments for the consent calendar?
I move on the consent calendar.
Okay, may I have a motion for consent calendar items number 2 to 11?
Councilmember Davis has moved.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Menke to approve the consent calendar. Mayor Lopez,
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
I'm gonna abstain.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Menke,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Okay, we will now go on to the new business for item number 12.
Item 12 is memorandum of understanding with the University of Southern California, USC, for coronavirus COVID-19 vaccine trial, and Health and Environmental Control Director Eugene will present the report.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and council members. We're hoping to have Dr. Dube from UIC actually join us, but he has a conflict, so he won't be available until 10 a.m. So I'm gonna do my best and cover that. The agenda before you is MOU that we've been working with UIC. As you are aware, UIC is participating in part of the phase 3 trial of the COVID vaccine with the pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca, which actually worked with the company in England for to come up with that vaccine. Phase 1, phase 2 trials has been very positive to a point. Actually, I think the president is considering maybe waiving the whole phase 3 trial, but we'll see what happens. With that said, UIC, through looking at the area, what area will best serve the study, they reached out to Vernon as one area because of our unique employees and the businesses that in Vernon and the surrounding Southeast LA area. That is be a great area to have a satellite office where they can do their work. So we've gone through that. They're getting ready to hopefully get the trailers ready. So the item before you is basically to approve that. What the city is providing is basically we're providing a location with utility hookups, and UIC will provide everything else. They'll provide the doctors, the nurses, the people to do the work. All we're gonna do is support them, reach out to the businesses to let them know what is happening and see if they're interested in volunteering doing that work. Micah is available. Excellent. As well as stalling for.
While we're waiting, Dan, can you give a little bit of information of, or Freddie, one of you two? I know that we've all talked about where we're going to locate the trailer here at City Hall. Maybe we can walk City Council so they can understand some of the logistics of where we're going to be installing the trailers and how that's going to work with the public being able to enter into the facility and exit the facility. And we're looking at this to be over a 3-year period, and they do want to offer medical services for that 3-year period for anybody that volunteers to take the trial. So Dan, why don't you talk
Sure.
about that?
So USC is planning on having 2 trailers that will see patients as part of their clinical trials. These trailers are going to be located in the public works in the city yard immediately behind City Hall. So one of the trailers will be up against the building that's immediately opposite from the gas pumps, and the other trailer will be located near the bulky item sand areas. So we're going to relocate where we have the sand and gravel in order to provide space for the trailer there. Both of these trailers will be hooked up to electricity, running water, and will have sewer disposal available. People will be able to access through the city yard with the intercom system that we currently have. And if necessary, we'll put in an additional person gate that will be next to that front gate. Parking will be available in the parking structure, and it's just down the staircase to get into the city works yard, the public works yard. So.
It looks like we have Dr. Dubé ready.
Hi. Can I go ahead and show my slides?
Yes, you can try and share your screen now.
Okay. Looks like I can. Thanks to everyone. Hopefully you can see my slides now.
We see your screen.
We're going to do a coronavirus vaccine trial, and we're hoping that we'll be able to partner with the City of Vernon as our satellite site. Our main site will be at Keck Hospital, and we wanted to establish a satellite site in an area where there's a number of people that are at increased risk for acquiring COVID-19. And that's why we reached out to Freddie and other folks from the city of Vernon. There's a variety of different vaccines that are undergoing study. The one we're talking about today is the AstraZeneca Oxford University vaccine, but there's a whole host of others that are undergoing clinical trials or will be in the very near future. Another one we'll be doing later in the year is the Novavax trial, but AstraZeneca comes first.
Excuse me, Michael?
Yes.
Can you enter a presentation mode so it can be full screen?
I can, like that.
Yeah, that's
There we
better.
go.
Okay. Then I don't know what slide's coming next. But this is a nationwide network, the Coronavirus Prevention Network, or CoVPN. There's 3 sites in Los Angeles. There's UCLA, Harbor UCLA, and Torrance, and USC here in Los Angeles. That's the name of the study. And what the virus is, and there's some medical terminology here, but let me walk you through it. It's phase 3, so it's a large-scale trial that, if successful, will hopefully allow this to be approved by the FDA. It's double-blind in that we don't know, neither the physicians, the study personnel, or the patients will know whether or not they're getting the active vaccine or placebo, which is just salt water. That's the vaccine. It is a adenovirus, which is a common cold type virus that's been genetically modified so that it carries one of the proteins that is in SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. But this virus has been genetically modified so that it doesn't spread inside the body. It doesn't produce new virus, so it's called replication incompetent. It was originally an adenovirus that came from a chimp. It's been used in other vaccines, and early phase studies show that it makes people make antibodies quite robustly with 1 dose and better with 2 doses. There'll be 30,000 enrolled overall. For every 2 that get the vaccine, 1 will get the saltwater placebo. It's 2 injections, 4 weeks apart. We asked the study participants to show for 7 in-person visits over 2 years. If they get sick during the study, we'll need to evaluate them to see if they've got COVID-19. And we'll have them come to or be transported to the outpatient tent at Keck Hospital to evaluate them for COVID-19 if they become ill during the study. We're targeting 35% of people aged 65 and older, and focusing in other high-risk groups such as healthcare workers, industrial workers in the manufacturing and food industries, and other people that are in close group settings. This shows the study. The blue arrows are the visits that we're asking people to do over a 2-year period. The injections are given at day 1 and day 29, so 4 weeks apart. People have to be over the age of 18, be healthy, or have chronic diseases that are medically stable, and we're encouraging people that have chronic illnesses that put them at increased risk of COVID-19 to participate. And so we're focusing on people who are at increased risk, either occupationally or other reasons for being increased risk of getting COVID-19. There are some side effects from the vaccine from the early phase trials, lasting usually up to a day or 2, including some mild flu-like symptoms, some pain and tenderness at the injection site, feeling poorly, muscle aches and nausea. And those were more common with the vaccine than with placebo in the in the phase 1 studies. It'll last for a day or two. And if you get Tylenol or acetaminophen, called paracetamol in England, that helps alleviate the symptoms. And the second vaccination that's given 4 weeks later is actually consistently better tolerated than the first one. We don't expect this to knock anybody out, but some soreness in the arm and some feeling ill for a day or two is a sign that the vaccine is actually working and provoking an immune response in the body. We've got a great number of community engagement efforts. The satellite site that we hope to establish at Vernon. We've had outreach to Smithfield Foods and other employers in the area. We'll also be looking at healthcare workers and supermarket workers in different areas as well. And there's a website that's been established for volunteers to go and sign up to be contacted about the study. It's in English and in Spanish. It's at the coronaviruspreventionnetwork.org, but also they gave us a simpler one as well, preventcovid.org, where people can go and say that they're potentially interested in signing up for the trial. So we're hoping that the Vernon site will attract industrial and other workers that are at higher risk of acquiring COVID-19. We'll use the trailer there to consent and enroll people into the trial and do some of the follow-up evaluations that are required by the study. But again, people who become acutely ill with COVID-19 symptoms who need to be evaluated will be seen and tested at Keck Hospital. And for people that don't have their own transportation, we'll be able to get folks a medical ride share to Keck.
Thank you, Dr. Dubé. Any questions for the doctor? Well, so thank you very much for doing the presentation. So city, we're recommending city council, staff recommending city council approving the MOU so that UIC can start the work. And financial impact to the city, I think Dan mentioned and Carlos mentioned, we will provide utilities to the trailers. But we do believe this is a great cause for what is happening, especially in our area, folks that are higher risk. So we do recommend that city council approve. Thank you. And now we'll be here if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Freddie. I have a couple questions. Probably for the doctor. Do you guys already have a list of people that already signed up for this?
There on the website that I showed, preventcovid.org, we already have a number of volunteers that have expressed interest into the study. We have not yet begun to contact them to find out exactly who really is interested and is likely to actually sign up. But that's the pathway, the primary pathway for volunteers is through that website.
Do we know if anybody from the area, from our area, Southeast LA and Vernon, and employees have signed up, or is it just blind signed up right now?
All I can tell you at this point is that in our zip code catchment area, there have been 7,000 volunteers that have contacted through the website. And we're only shooting for 500. That's the number that we're going to. But how many of those 7,000 will actually enroll in the trial remains to be seen. We've not started to contact any of them, but we're hoping that many of them will ultimately come from from Vernon.
Thank you. And then I have a follow-up question for Public Works probably. How are we keeping our safety and liability low with people walking onto the city yard with our trucks coming in and out?
So we will have the area designated. We'll speak with staff, just make sure that everyone is very aware that there are pedestrians in the area that aren't familiar with our site. I anticipate that after people have visited the site a couple of times, they'll become familiar with the operations that are going on, and that it will not just be my staff that's being safe, but it will be the general public that's visiting the site will have a heightened awareness as well.
I do have a comment. Is there any way that we can have the public enter in from the
Yes,
gate on the far south side of the property? And then we could put a pedestrian gate in between, and that way they could just park right in front of the trailer and walk through the gate, and then they're not walking through the city yards.
Yes, that's an excellent idea. We'll
Or
work
maybe
on
an
that.
alternate option would be just a safety walkway with some barriers so
Right.
that if a truck comes by, they know which way to walk.
Right, yes, that's
But
also an
let's look
excellent
at our
idea.
safety, the
We-
safety of the people who are involved in our
We certainly
liabilities.
will as soon as the footprint for the trailers is established. So we've been working with USC on that, and it's a little preliminary until we actually have their footprint for how the trailers are going to be organized.
Okay.
Dan wanted to put it on the city lawn. I said,
For 3 years.
And Mayor Pro Tem, also to add, when the press release went out, I think what, 2 weeks ago now, a week ago, we had a lot of interest, people calling. So we directed them to our website, which has a link to the USC site to volunteer. So we did have people that were calling that they want to volunteer.
Okay.
And also I think Telemundo or somebody also aired that. So we had a lot of traction after that also.
So that was one of my questions, for safety. So if we do approve it, how soon before everything goes up and?
I think we'll let the doctor answer that.
Well, if I was in control of the Department of Defense and the trailer operations, we'd be ready to go next week. Whether or not that will actually happen depends on a lot of things that are outside of my control. But the study started on Friday. First person enrolled was on Friday, and we're still working through our committee approvals. If you want me to place a guess when everything will be done, I would say it'd be and ready to go would be the week of the 14th. Would be probably a realistic prediction.
Would there be foot traffic during the weekend?
We would not be using that satellite site on the weekend, no.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Dubé.
Okay. Am I done?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra, seconded by Councilmember Menke, to approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Vernon and USC in substantially the same form as submitted for COVID-19 vaccine trial. Mayor Lopez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Menke,
Yes.
sorry, Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now on to item number 13.
Item 13 is contract for fire station remodeling required for transition to the Consolidated Fire Protection District of Los Angeles County. Public Works Director Wall will present the item.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, the City Council authorized the transfer of the city's fire department to LA County Fire. As part of the transfer, the city is obligated to make the repairs requested by LA County Fire in a manner acceptable to and under the standards established by County Fire. LA County Fire has identified one-time conversion cost for the necessary renovations required at each of the fire stations that will be occupied by LA County Fire personnel. At Fire Station 76, there are 5 interior construction conversion items that have a combined LA County Fire estimated cost of $666,250. These items are privacy and access modifications, turnout room improvements, a kitchen remodel, bathroom reconstruction, and electrical upgrades. LA County Fire has identified a construction company that they have utilized in the past and that they are recommending for these repairs, since this company, Fasone Construction, is familiar with the standards and specifications, and LA County has hired this company in the past. Fasone Construction provided a bid to the city of $547,034.72 to do this work. This is a savings of over $119,000 from LA County Fire's estimate. Fasone Construction has performed work for LA County Fire in the past, is a county-approved vendor, and has been regarded by LA County Fire as a trusted partner in equivalent projects. The work proposed to be completed by Fasone Construction at Fire Station 76 has been approved by LA County Fire's project management team, as the plans meet the stringent project specifications set forth by the agency to provide standardized live-work environments for fire personnel. Due to the highly specialized construction rehabilitation requirements of LA County Fire and their endorsement of the firm, the selection of Fasone Construction is exempt from the city's competitive bidding pursuant to Section 2.17.12 of the Municipal Code. Staff consulted with the interim city attorney, who confirmed that a direct award of this contract is permitted based upon the terms and conditions of the agreement between the city and LA County Fire and other allowed exceptions under Vernon's Municipal Code and purchase policies. With the impending LA County Fire transition scheduled to occur in late October 2020, there is a limited window of time in which the city may establish a contract with a vendor directly, independent of LA County Fire. After November 1st, if such a contract is not yet in effect, LA County Fire will lead the effort in the construction renovation project, and all costs will be passed on directly to the city. If the city opts to allow LA County Fire to coordinate the execution of the required construction, the city's opportunity to capitalize on any savings will be forfeited, and the project will be completed at a higher overall cost. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the contract with Fasone Construction in order to recognize the savings noted and to fulfill the specific needs and requirements of LA County Fire. This concludes my report.
Does council have any technical questions for staff?
I have a question. How are we going to manage this, as we're getting an outside part of county to reconstruct the fire stations or upgrade the fire stations? How do we know that they're not going to find something else wrong?
So we have been working with LA County Fire management staff, and we've done walkthroughs on the stations. They have approved the scope of work for Fasone Construction on this. Because this is remodeling work, this is the type of work where LA County didn't provide us with any plans for what they actually wanted. So Fasone Construction, as part of their bid, produced drawings that were approved by LA County Fire management staff. And so there's an agreement, an understanding rather, between LA County Fire management staff and the city as to what the work will entail and what will be acceptable to LA County Fire.
I don't want the cost to go high.
Yeah, me neither.
Mhm.
Which is actually, that's part of the reason why we're using Fasone. So had we got our own bidder for this who was not familiar with LA County's requirements, then we run the risk of doing this work and not having it be acceptable to LA County Fire. So in coordination with LA County Fire, this was their recommended contractor who was familiar with their requirements and who had performed satisfactory for them in the past.
Okay. So are they putting search and rescue in 76 then?
We are in the process of bringing it over several different elements into Vernon. Yes, that's one of the aspects that we're looking at is bringing search and rescue into Vernon as well as hazmat. We have up to a year to transfer them into the city. And I am aware that LA County did decide to bring over their battalion chief services to City Hall. So they will be filling the offices upstairs where the current fire department is, and that's where their inspectors and their regional battalion chief or it's battalion chief, right, Chief? Yes. Will be utilizing the office upstairs. And Chief, any idea of when we might have the additional units in Vernon? I know that we have up to a year to bring them in, but they have shown a tremendous amount of interest to make sure that they are here in Vernon, and we're accommodating the dorms set up so that we can accommodate the additional personnel that would be in Vernon.
I just, my memory is failing me as I get older. I don't remember these costs being anticipated, were they?
I'm sorry, the question?
Were these costs anticipated in our original agreement? I know we're on the hook for them, but did
Yes.
we-
This is all anticipated cost as far as the dorm configuration. The additional, we didn't really anticipate doing any changes here at 77th, but they are asking to be able to put in additional dorms. And so they'd be knocking down a wall and doing additional, which it seems to be minimal. Isn't that correct, Dan?
Yes, the total overall cost for 77s is estimated by the county at $123,613. So it's minimal in comparison to the changes that are going on at 76.
And some of the things that we did to offset some of these costs, we had additional fire service academies that we were going to have to put our personnel through. With the use of the fire chief and the current training process, we have now trained our personnel so that they can transfer into the LA County system without having to go through an academy, which is going to bring additional savings to the city, close to $1 million. Isn't that accurate, Chief?
Council, Mayor Jim Enriquez, Fire Department. Just to clarify, yes, that's correct. And regarding 77s, we're going to currently that station occupies 8 firefighters. There's the LA County Fire Chief Osby had in discussion with our city administrator, myself, implied their plan is to move their hazardous material task force into the city soon after the transition. With that, their task force includes 9 personnel in total. So we'll be adding a dorm at the city expense. Again, a nominal cost because it's a non-bearing wall, just pushing out the area that's open to accommodate that 9th person. So on behalf of the city, that's 5 more personnel in the city at no cost to you. In addition, regarding our training, yes, we've been incrementally over the process of training to LA County standards, and our city administrator approved 4 of our supervisors to attend their Fire Captains Academy in turn, returned and trained all our personnel as a training program. Subsequently, and most recently, our engineers attended their academy in turn. We're in the process of training our personnel. There will be probably, currently the part of the transition costs of the $1 million is a month of training where they're going to take our personnel following the date we're sworn in and go to their academy. The plan was that was preceding the previous agreement. The city agreed to that, but again, we've made a concerted effort to try to reduce that training component. Certainly not to incur that cost of $1 million. There will be some training that's still going to be required thereafter. Things that we cannot do at our level, county compliance standards, some of their policies there. That all county employees have to go through. But we anticipate it being substantially reduced from the month that originally was agreed upon.
Excellent. I have a question. If I recall, we were in agreement with Station 76 and 77. Why 79 on this list? Is it because we're bringing in hazmat? If I recall, you're
yes.
talking about a year ago, we had 76 and 77 station we were going to give them, but now I see 79s here.
So station should be 78. It should be on that
It
list.
should be 78.
Okay, then we need to edit that because it says 79.
Okay.
Bandini.
Yeah, 79 is going to be vacant.
Yes,
Okay.
so 78 at this time, likewise, similar with the discussion that Chief Osby and I that occurred, as well as our city administrator, he implied that he'd like to take possession of that station. Their intent is to also bring additional personnel to staff that station at no cost to the city. We're not sure to what degree currently in discussions, they're considering moving their Homeland Security personnel in that station to occupy it.
Yeah, I recall that, but not 79. That's why, so we
Okay,
should need to
but-
fix that. That's a
Yeah,
big
you're
typo in
correct
here
on that.
on the conversion cost.
Okay, thank you.
When,
there any
how long
other
will it take to, sorry, how long will it take to have this all completed?
It's going to be a couple of months of construction, but it's going to be ongoing. We're going to actually transition into LA County, and then they'll be doing ongoing construction at the locations while we transition. So it's going to be a couple of months.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? May I have a motion?
I'll move with the requested edits.
A second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra, seconded by Councilmember Gonzalez, to find the action exempt under CEQA and to accept the bid from Fasone Construction, approve and authorize the city administrator to execute the contract, and authorize a contingency amount of $25,000. I believe the correction is to an attachment to the agenda report, not.
Correct. It
reflect-
is for the LA County conversion cost estimate.
Yeah, the cost, just to clarify, that cost estimate that we got from LA County originally included 79s, but we've decided that we won't do any work at 79s, and that station will be turned over back to the city, and we will have that facility to use on our own. So you're correct, 79 will not be included in any conversion cost.
Okay, but you're talking about conversion cost to 78, but 78's not in here.
We'll make sure that 78 is included in there. Should be 78, 77, and 76.
Okay, so I have a conflict of approving this.
So
if that's
so
the
we will
case.
we will make sure that the amendment shows that 79s will not be modified. However, 78s will be in order to accommodate the task force that they want to
What's
bring
the
in.
cost for 78? Because right here it says $237. If this gets approved, I'm assuming it cannot exceed to 37 right
Correct.
here.
Correct.
Mayor, this item is
Pro Tem.
only for the, I'm sorry, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem. So this item is only for work that is going to be done at Fire Station 76.
Yeah.
And it does not include anything else. The reason why that attachment was included was to provide information on what the county's estimate was for the work to be done at Station 76. And it just so happened to have estimates for the other work included with it.
Okay,
And I just want to clarify that 78s, the city's not putting any money towards 78s.
okay.
If LA County wants to do any kind of upgrades to that station, they will come in and do those
And
upgrades.
that's what I remember off of what we talked about on the contract.
That facility will be made available to LA County.
Okay.
And they will be responsible for doing any upgrades that they need to do to that station. And I believe two members of the council visited 78s and saw the condition of the station, so.
Okay, great.
So the motion is to approve the contract for Fire Station 76.
Correct.
I'll call the roll. Mayor Lopez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Ibarra,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Menke,
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now we will go on to oral reports.
Okay, we'll start off with Police Department. On August 7th, Vernon Police Department arrested a male for grand theft auto in the 4400 block of Alcoa. On August 10th, Vernon Police Department responded to the 1900 block of 55th Street regarding a deceased female. A preliminary investigation shows no signs of foul play. On August 12th, Vernon Police Department officers responded to the 2900 block of Santa Fe, where a company owner was stabbed as the suspect tried to steal property from the company. The case is active and ongoing investigation. On August 21st, Vernon Police Department arrested 3 suspects for grand theft auto and grand theft. Officers were able to identify the stolen property in the vehicle that linked to the nearby catalytic converter theft. On August 21st, Vernon Police Department detectives conducted a follow-up with City of Los Angeles regarding an ongoing theft from UPS. Detectives arrested a suspect and recovered nearly $66,000 of stolen property. On August 22nd, Vernon Police Department arrested a subject for trespassing at Vernon Recycling Yard, 2221 55th Street. On August 23rd, Vernon Police Department arrested a subject for grand theft auto in the 3000 block of Sawson. And then on August 26th, Vernon responded to the 3000 block of Vernon regarding a male that had been stabbed in the face. The subject was located nearby and arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. And on August 30th, Vernon Police Department arrested a subject in the 5400 block of Bickett for possession of stolen property. Okay, fire department. So we have a couple of different events that are going to be transpiring over the next couple of weeks that I would like to give City Council a heads up. One of them is going to be on September 21st, which will be an end of watch badge ceremony. This end of watch badge ceremony is a transfer of their current uniform badge to an end of watch badge symbolizing the ending of the Vernon Fire Department. This badge will be presented to each firefighter that is currently on duty and also any retiree up until 2019. So anybody, if you retired between 2019 to today, you'll be given that end of watch badge. I've also ordered an end of watch badge for each individual council member as a memorabilia so that you can have it to memorialize, the Vernon Fire Department. So you will be each given a badge at this ceremony as well. We're looking at having this event because of COVID-19 and all the different moving parts. We want to have it over at Station 76 in an open area. We do want to provide breakfast to people attending, and we want to have families attend so that they can pin the badge on the actual firefighters. So we're coordinating right now with the fire department and with HR to coordinate this event on that day. After that transition, then we will have another ceremony with LA County and different officials in the area. I'm not sure exactly who will be attending, but it could be some of our it could be our state senator, it could be a couple of different individuals from LA County that'll be attending. And that transition with LA County will happen in late October. Right now it's slotted for the end of October. And then obviously we will have the transition period. Like I said, the good news is that LA County Fire will be occupying this building and they will be moving into the offices upstairs. So we will have them here on site, which is a tremendous plus for the city, and also having the inspectors. As far as transition, we'll have a couple of day transition with Chief Enriquez, but eventually we're going to say goodbye to Chief and thank him for his service. And that's going to happen sometime at the end of October, early November. And then we also we're going to do some training with inspections. So inspections are very important to the members of the public and to the business community because they continue to do work. And so we will have some overline inspections that will go from Vernon to LA County. And so we will utilize our current inspector to help out and transition that team. That may happen over a 1 month to 2 month, 3 month period. and transitioning, because we don't want hiccups in that area as far as signing off on inspections and so forth. So any questions about that? So end of watch is September 29th. Forgive me. What was that? Okay. So September 29th. That'll be at Station 76, September 29th, and I believe it's at 9 in the morning. Cool. Any questions on fire? Anything that City Council would like to see at this ceremony?
No Mylar balloon.
Okay.